everyone, James Labrie from Dream Theater, and you're listening to or watching the podcast Talking Into Infinity with JT and Brian. Enjoy this. These guys are extremely informative. I love their dialogue. I love their interpretation of the songs, who and what we are, what we were going after. They're very accurate in their interpretations and descriptions, and I just think this is a great show, and these guys are doing a stand-up stellar job. So once again, enjoy Talking Into Infinity with JT and Brian.
What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Talking Into Infinity, a Dream Theater-centric podcast. I'm your host, John. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, talkingintoinfinity.com, the CMSnetwork.com, and the CMS Network Rumbles and local pages. We are at these locations every other Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you are watching on YouTube, please do not forget to click that like button, click that subscribe button, and smash that notification bell so that you are notified every time we go live. Without further ado, I bring on my esteemed co-host, Mr. Brian Hendrickson. Right off the bat, Luke has spoken. Thank you very much, bro. Happy 100 episodes to us. Look at us go. Man.
Wow. I totally forgot about that.
I know, I did too. It's like, oh my God, that's right. It's 100 episodes, man.
You know what I didn't forget? Last week, your birthday. Happy belated.
Well, thank you.
I did talk to you on your actual birthday, but thank God for the John. Just a shot in the dark, but it was your birthday last week.
Oh my God, I love it. Yeah, it was. It was
never too late to wish you happy birthday.
No, I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. So yeah, it was fun, man. I kind of just hung out and then.
So who was the most surprising person that came on to? I know I wasn't that surprising, but who was like somebody you never would have thought would have showed up on there?
Oh, that's a good question. Man, I'm trying to think.
Well, how many people were there?
Oh God, it ended up being more than 10 because we had to keep bumping. People to get other people in.
Oh, that's cool.
So yeah, so I mean, like, my band coming on was pretty surprising. I hadn't seen Steve, our old co-host on the Nerf Herder Council, in quite a while, so that was awesome.
Oh, nice.
Circle J. I mean, it was cool, man. My brother did a really good job, but he actually learned a very important podcasting lesson that night because. When we do these big episodes where we have a ton of hosts, we stagger them, because you want to give people time to talk and everything, so you have a few people on at a time. Well, he told everybody 8:00, so all of a sudden you had like 17 people. It's like as we're talking, people just kept showing up and showing up and showing up. It was like, holy shit, man. So, yeah, it was definitely a blast, and. I was so flattered to have everybody on there. So appreciate you jumping on for a minute. That's part of the thing that sucked is that, I didn't get to talk to you very much, if at all. And it happened with a bunch of people. I was like, man. And then my brother started trying to rush me. And I was like, well, dude, like, I don't want people to be kind enough to take their time to show up on the show. And then I don't say anything. Hey, thanks for coming on. See you later. Like, no. So
well, I figure we'll get plenty of time to BS in about 2 weeks here. So
yeah, I know,
you'll
right?
get more than your fill of listening to me talk, I'm sure.
Yeah. So all right. So real quick, let me take a drink here. A little bit of iced tea. So tonight is kind of weird because we had a guest lined up, and he's running into technical problems. He showed up before the show he was on for about 10 seconds, went to say something, and it said device not connected. So we may have a guest on here in a minute. We're hoping so. If not, then we've got a backup episode ready to roll. So the guest host is a guy named John Pyro Watkins, and he was the Pyro guy for Van Halen, for Kiss, for Bon Jovi. Worked on a ton of like absolutely massive tours. So we wanted to talk to him about that kind of thing, what it's like blowing shit up for bands of that size. He's also got some really pointed opinions about Alex Van Halen's recently released autobiography called Brothers, because Alex's drum tech from back in the day, from basically like the beginning of the band through, I want to say, the 5150 tour, he ended up taking his own life a few years ago, and Alex mentioned him in the book, like, oh, I'm going to miss you and all this stuff like this. Well, John said that Alex is completely full of shit and treated this guy like garbage, and had a huge Facebook post, which is how I found him. And he just was going off about it. And I thought, well, I'd like to hear this story, because that's, kind of interesting. So that was the genesis of inviting John on, but he's trying to fix his connection. And if he can't fix it, then we will reschedule. So we do have a backup episode ready to go, and we'll get into that. And then if John jumps on, then we can talk to him for a bit. Excuse me. So there's some recent news about Ozzy Osbourne doing his final show. So Brian and I, when we weren't sure what was going to happen, I said, hey, is there a record you can talk about and rank and mini deep dive on the fly? He says, Ozzy Osbourne, Ultimate Sin. I was like, thank God you picked one that I could pretty much do in my sleep. So so we thought we'd talk a little Ozzy tonight, something we can actually run through on the fly here. But yeah, the recent announcement of Ozzy's last show, that big charity show over in England with all those incredibly huge rock stars as part of the evening, and the original Black Sabbath playing a little bit. So they got Bill Ward. Apparently they paid him enough money. What are your thoughts on this final quote unquote Ozzy show?
Well, I'm still about. I don't know. What do you think the odds are that he can still actually go out and do this? I'm still kind of skeptical of this whole thing.
I am too. I saw a video on YouTube the other day of him walking down the street like a month or two ago, and oh my God, I'm like, why are they doing this? I think I'm fully convinced that the reason Sharon keeps trying to send his ass out there is because she's still mad about the cheating thing. So she's like, fine, I'm going to work you into the grave. I'm going to make money off you, and I'm going to work you until you die.
Yeah, I mean, is there any scenario where he could hold up for more than, I don't know, 6 to 7 songs maybe?
Yeah, it came out that he's only doing a couple of tunes. So, I mean, which is not surprising. I mean, she said he can't walk, which means he's either going to be out there propped up on something or sitting in a chair. And I mean, it's just not going to look great.
Okay, I guess I didn't know it was only a couple. Yeah, that makes more sense, though. I mean, we already did this final Sabbath show anyway. What was it, 2 years ago or something?
The end, yeah.
Yeah, and they had like that. They did like kind of a mini documentary about it or whatever, where they got together to rehearse the songs beforehand or something. Or
yeah, well, but that wasn't with Bill Ward. That was with Tommy Clufetos.
That's true.
So Aaron Taft sitting he says sitting next to Phil Collins. Nice. Doug McCauley with a good point. He says, I can listen to you guys all night. Wait, for the length of an episode, so no worries. Oh, that's awesome. Well, here's an interesting one. Chastity, we didn't do any research for this. So Chastity Crawley, who is still riding high on adrenaline from having seen Dream Theater 2 nights ago. She says, you could do your favorite episodes in the last 100. Ooh. I'd have to think about that one, Chastity. I mean, there's a ton of great ones. I mean, some of the real early ones come to mind because it was like when we started finding our groove and kind of getting into it and actually had viewers. You know, it was pretty sweet. The song draft with Cale and Adam Rishog was really good. That was fun.
Well, having James and Chance on. Yeah,
that was awesome. The interview ones are always great because it's cool to get like different perspectives. I know for me, like the Steven Rosen one was awesome because I got to talk about an excellent Van Halen book. Like you said, the James and Chance one, the Jordan interview was really good. Mike Mangini was a great interview. I I don't know. I just think I know, like, I'm trying to remember how many episodes in we were when we finally hit double-digit amount of people watching live. We were like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Because usually it was like 4 or 5. And so we're like, oh my God, we have like 10 people watching. So
Kale.
yeah.
Mancini's.
Yeah, Kale McLeish, says Mangini's interview where he couldn't talk about Dream Theater at all.
And 3 days later, he was gone.
Yeah, that was.
Was it even that, or was it a week? It was less than a week, I think.
Yeah, it was. Well, I think it was a Wednesday because I was working from home, and we did the interview on Thursday, and then it was
Oh, yeah.
it was like
Barely
6
a week.
days. Yeah, yeah. Doug McCauley, rank the last 100 episodes. Go. That's fantastic.
Out of all of them, this was the most recent. That's how much I know. The one where we Aiken was on, and me and him, we had some. I want to go find that one where we were. I think it was the second time you were talking about growing your hair out, and we were just railing.
Oh yeah,
there was some really good ones that were landed.
Yeah, that was fun.
That.
I don't mind taking a beating like that. That shit's funny. So
I have no idea what the episode was about, but that's what I remember the most of that one.
That was funny, man. Yeah, I mean, dude, I don't know. I think it's hard to like remember because you're doing everything on the fly, and we don't script anything, so we basically just react. And sometimes, like tonight, we have to pivot at the last minute. So some of the things we've done, we're just like last minute, like, oh God, we got to do an episode. Like, what are we gonna do? Like our original idea fell through, or we're supposed to have a guest that couldn't make it, or So for me, it's kind of like crazy that we've done 100 episodes. You know what I mean? I mean that's pretty wild.
I can't fathom it.
It was Circle J, great to see you, man. He says that was the 72 seasons episode, the one where I was getting annihilated for my hair. Yeah.
That was a good one. That was a good deep dive on a album that was, kind of new and fresh, and no one knew a whole lot about it.
Yeah. Luke has spoken. He says the scenes from A Memory Ranking was another great one. When Brian put Overture 1928 in last place, the argument that ensued was hilarious.
I don't even remember what the argument was.
I see. Honestly, I've said this before, and it's not just pandering. Like Brian and I, our favorite part of the show is having you guys in the chat. Like it's awesome to just sit there and bullshit with other people that love Dream Theater as much as we do. And some of the stuff that you guys come up with is hilarious. And when you guys start getting into it with each other in the chat and just like having these like spirited debates, it's just awesome. So, oh yeah, there we go. Kale says, us wanting you fired, Brian. That was the argument.
You can't fire me. I quit.
Yeah. I'm surprised you lasted this long.
Yeah.
Chastity Crawley says, I've said it before. If people bug you about your hair, tell them you're growing it out to donate. They'll shut up real quick. It's true. That is true, man. But yeah, back to the Ozzy thing. I absolutely just don't know how they're gonna pull this off. I don't know why they're throwing him out there. I mean, it's like, oh, he wants to say goodbye to the fans, like, but it's gonna be so damned embarrassing, like, and sad.
Yeah.
So why would you want to do that? So I don't know. They're doing it for charity, yada yada, but they're making a ton of coin here somewhere. So
yeah, I
don't know. So we'll see. I mean, there's a lot. I'm interested to see the other performances because with all these like famous dudes, I like Sammy Hagar tweeted out and or Instagram wherever, and said that he was given the option of choosing who his backing band is, and I think he hashtagged Rock Candy and Flying High again, and he's like, take one guess who I'm playing with, and I wonder if he's not picking Wolfgang Van Halen, which would be awesome.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. So that'll be cool. I'm interested to see the other guys more so than Ozzy.
So who else is supposed to be there?
Oh God. Let me Google that real quick. Who is playing Ozzy's last show? Let's see if we can get a. Yeah. So it says,
I'm assuming Zach will be there.
yeah, it says the show will feature the original Black Sabbath lineup with Ozzy Osbourne, Tony Iommi, Geezer Butler, and Bill Ward, marking the first time they've played together in 20 years. Special guests, the event will feature sets from Metallica, Slayer, Alice in Chains, Pantera, Gojira, Hailstorm, Lamb of God, Anthrax, and Mastodon. There will also be a super group of musicians, including Billy Corgan, Slash and Duff McKagan, Jonathan Davis, Sammy Hagar, Wolfgang Van Halen, Fred Durst, Zach Wilde, and more. Musical.
Fred Durst.
Yeah, I know. That's what I said. I was like, really?
Which one of these
weird.
ones doesn't fit here?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Billy Corgan doesn't seem to fit very much either. I mean, but, whatever. It says the musical director for the evening will be Rage Against the Machine's Tom Morello. So, yeah, it's pretty huge, man. Look at Rocket Man.
Fat Slash.
You mean fat? Dude, I am no one to call anybody fat, okay? So I will not say that.
Who's Fat Slash?
What
does that even mean?
I think Rocket, are you ripping on Slash for having gained some weight, or are you trying to, is there somebody else? So
I don't know. Yeah, I don't get the joke.
All right. So yeah, we'll see where it's at.
Whiskey tension experiment. That's pretty funny.
Right. Look at Doug McCauley talking. He's talking gear. I just bought a 5150 head combo with a Marshall cab on Facebook Marketplace. It's got a great rock sound, but it's weak on the metal end. Oh, you gotta change the dials then, man, because those goddamn things can shred. So look up some metal settings on that. My buddy plays through one of those, and it's heavy. So, all right, man. Well, so you again said that you could talk about Ozzy Osbourne's 1986 record, "The Ultimate Sin," on the fly. So why did you choose "The Ultimate Sin"?
Oh man, well, it was to coincide with the Ozzy thing. I believe it's probably my favorite album of Ozzy's, and as I've touted many times on this show, I got to see the mighty Metallica Master of Puppets tour open for Ozzy on the Ultimate Sin tour, which I don't know if it's possible to top that concert. You would be very hard pressed to top that show. During that time frame with two bands that were absolutely at the top of their game.
Was that in St. Louis or in Cleveland?
That was in St. Louis, yeah. And it was literally, I don't think more than 6 months before Cliff passed.
So it was because he passed at the end of September in '86.
Yep.
Oh,
I think it was something like May. I want to say May or April.
That's crazy.
Isn't that weird?
Oh my God. I wonder if we can find the actual date, but yeah, that is unbelievable. Yeah, because my older brother went to that show here in April 2nd, 1986 at the Kiel Auditorium.
Okay, I was right. I knew it was somewhere around there. Yeah, Kiel Auditorium.
Oh my God, my brother saw it literally a week after you. April 9th, 1986 in Richfield. He thought it was after Cliff died, but he doesn't know about all the history and stuff. He was there for Ozzy. Wow. So so you guys both saw them less than 6 months before Cliff. That is crazy.
And we got about 4 to 5 songs off of Ultimate Sin, which was great. That was back in the era when you got almost a minimum of 3 to 4 songs from new albums from bands, and now you don't. Those days are, especially the older bands, those days are long, long gone. Well, you don't most of the stuff you don't want more than. You don't want more than one new one from the new albums from these older bands, but
All right. Well, all right. So John Watkins is here. Let's see if his connection will actually hold up. Let's see if we can get him here. John, do we have you?
I think so.
There we go. All right.
I had to install a new browser for your.
Oh God. I told you those hotspots with this damn StreamYard, they either work great or they're terrible. So it really kind of.
Where are you at, John?
Vegas.
Vegas? Oh, okay, awesome, man. What are the gold records hiding on your wall back there?
The platinum albums.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, Brian. Jeez, oh, Pete.
I can't tell from here.
One's Pink Floyd. Momentary Lapse of Reason. One is $7 million for Bon Jovi, Slippery When Stupid, and one's for Europe, The Final Letdown.
Nice.
I take. Did you work those tours and are not a fan of those bands, or what?
Yeah, that's why I got the awards.
Nice. Oh my God. So unfortunately we didn't get to talk to you pre-show. So one of the things that we haven't talked about is, all of the bands that you have worked with over the years, because you sent me a bunch of pictures with some huge artists. I mean, Bon Jovi and Kiss. And so what bands, how long have you been doing this, and what bands have you worked for?
I was on the road about 20 years. What bands didn't I work for?
What were some of the biggest ones that you
Michael Jackson.
Oh, God.
After he caught on fire, I got hired to do the entire Victory tour because I wouldn't burn him.
So you're telling us Michael Jackson doesn't like to be burned? Okay. There we go.
He was like that.
So you did work with Kiss. What tour?
Yes, that's what I started
with
in the 70s.
No shit. Wow.
I'm the last living member of the original Pyro crew of the 4 guys in makeup.
Oh, that is crazy. What was the first Kiss tour that you worked?
Dynasty.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
So I've read a lot of books about that era, and a lot of the stuff that I've read, they kind of blow it up a little bit to make it seem like the crowds were half empty for that tour. Is that true, or is that an exaggeration?
Well, it was we were in a recession during that tour, and then I also did the Revenge tour, and that played to a lot of half full houses. But
wow.
Gene liked to say they were half full.
That's not a surprise. So who was the coolest of the original 4 Kiss guys?
Well, that's like asking who's the prettiest Denny's waitress.
So none of them were cool. Okay.
Ace was cool.
Who was that? Ace?
Yeah.
Probably because he was hammered all the time. No.
He was shit faced, and he could still play circles around the other 3 guys.
See, he's always been my favorite Kiss guy. He's just, he's just cool. Like, I'm fine with the other 3 guys, but man, Ace just was cool. I mean, did you ever get to drink any of his champagne out of that? He had a road case specifically for his champagne, didn't he?
No, I don't think so, but
okay,
he had Don Perignon on ice every night.
Okay. Yeah, because that's another thing I've read in one of the books. It said that he actually had a flight case specifically for his booze. So
I don't think they make flight cases that big.
That's awesome. So was Peter Criss as big of a dick as everyone says he was?
I've never seen his dick, but he was I don't know, when you got Gene Simmons, everybody else seems like a human being, so
So Gene was that bad, huh?
He liked to spit on people, throw things,
Really? Spitting on people like the road crew?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I talked to my friend that was on the end of the road tour, and he said he was still doing it.
Oh my God. And this isn't just after he spits the fire. He's literally like, is this like sound checks or?
Yeah, whenever he's Gene's a really interesting guy, but you don't want to be on his bad side. He's almost, to me, he reminds me of a method actor, because when he puts on that makeup, he just becomes this monster, and he won't break character. And
I was gonna say, like, no breaking character is like an Andy Kaufman or something. Well, Doug McCauley's a fan. Doug McCauley says this guy is awesome. This is fun, man. So we got Kiss.
What made you get into this originally? Or were you a guy that just to make your own fireworks in your garage? Were you like a tinkerer, engineer type guy, or what got you into all this?
I grew up in Texas where, Americans are allowed to play with fireworks.
Okay.
And I built my first flamethrower out of my mom's vacuum cleaner when I was in seventh grade because it had a reverse switch on it. And
yeah.
I just wanted to be a roadie so bad. I thought I'd be a sound guy or a lighting guy. And I never thought I'd be able to make a living doing my hobby.
How do you get into that line of work? I mean, you just like, did you know someone or like, how did that start?
Yeah. My best friend, we went to church camp together growing up, and we used to scare the priest with, we'd rig the lights with explosives, so when they turn them on, the whole room would blow up. And he got a job with the tubes when we got out of high school, and I started working with him, and then I got a job with Bill Graham doing security and then became a stagehand there. And then Tim went from the tubes to Kiss. And then he killed himself drunk driving one night, and
Ooh.
I stepped into his job.
Wow.
And no, I did not mess with his car.
I wouldn't have asked. So after the Dynasty tour, like where did you go from there? Like what was
I thought that was just going to be it for me. And then the guy that trained me, the old master pyrotechnician that pretty much invented rock and roll touring, Pyro, who made Kiss what they were, called me up and put me on the road with Rick James for 6 tours.
Oh my God, what was that like, Rick James?
It's hard to remember.
Is that just a Coke fest or what?
Yeah, kind of. It was
not a lot of Pepsi.
It was the 80s. It was Rick James, and
Right.
he had the #1 album, the #1 everything, and too much money. And
Wow.
So of all, like, Kiss seems like an obvious answer, but of all the bands you worked with, who wanted the most pyro? Like, who did you have to do the most for?
probably Dio
Did Dio too? God damn.
with his fire-breathing dragon, and
Oh, that was Wicked Heart, wasn't it?
yeah.
Sacred Heart.
Sacred Heart. Sorry. So, man, you did that tour too?
Yep, I did that one. Last in Line, Lock Up the Wolves, some other ones.
Wow. So did you have to work with that giant animatronic dragon? Like that was,
Yeah,
didn't they say that thing was like breaking down all the time and whatnot?
it did. It worked pretty good most of the time.
Okay.
You like to spew a little bit of hydraulic fluid on the stage every now and then, but
I can't.
So were you in charge of actually designing? Like, did you get with the artist before the tour, and did they give you like specs on what they wanted, or did you like kind of say, "Here's what I kind of want to do," or what was your design input on a lot of that stuff?
well, we'd get together, we'd meet, and I'd pretend like I was listening, and then I'd tell them what they got.
Okay.
I designed I didn't design the dragon, but I designed all the pyro, so it was able to snort sparks, and smoke would come out of its mouth, and then they could throw a flame about 10 feet.
So we got a question in the chat for you here. So our buddy Discuss Metal Joe, he says, I'm curious, from all the years of experience, what is the one thing you wish every new touring band would not do?
I do a lot of work with the station fire people. That was Great White, and Great White was an account of mine, but not that night.
Yeah.
And it broke my heart what happened, and it took all the. I loved my job. I absolutely loved touring around the world, blowing things up, and to find out how many kids were imitating the effects they saw me do, really, really bothered me.
Really? So you weren't a fan of like getting ripped off, huh?
I didn't mind that. I was killing people that.
I see. Okay. I mean, do you mind talking a little bit about that? Because that's, I mean, if it's a sore subject, I don't want to
No.
touch on it, but I mean,
I'd rather educate people on the dangers of fire and public safety than talk about blowjobs. So.
That's awesome.
See, I just saw Steve Rosen. He's a dear friend of mine. He was such a polished, good guest. He was nice and humble and spoke well. And now you got stuck with me tonight.
Hey, but this is awesome too. I mean, come on, man. It's like there's two different types of guests. You get all your crazy stories and the nice polished author guy. It all plays, man. We've done all sorts. So
what was the most I don't know if I call it oh shit, or like you were a little bit worried about something that happened on stage but didn't end up happening, or did end up happening? What was the worst thing you saw?
Nothing really bad. Everybody these days, these people go, well, I'm a pyrotechnician. I go, yeah, sure you are. I mean, I sat there and studied for a long time with a master of the craft, and he wouldn't even let me touch the stuff until I still have shock from the mistreatment he used to give me. But
yeah,
now that you sit there and they look through a little catalog and they go, oh, I want to buy this effect, and then I'm a pyrotechnician. It's like, it's easy to like pull the trigger on a gun, but that doesn't mean you're qualified to, run a firearm.
Yeah.
Right.
So back when you started, I mean, was there any kind of stock stuff that you kind of added onto, or was this literally you just had to make everything from scratch, like from the start?
Yeah. When I did it, you pretty much put everything together, mixing it. I had scales and chemicals and things like Ace Frehley's guitar that shot the rockets. That was all custom done every day.
So did you work on that guitar? That was your doing?
Yeah.
Oh, that is so badass. So
I invented the blood that Gene Simmons vomited.
Oh, okay.
The recipe.
What is that recipe then? I've seen like 6 or 7 or 8 different.
What's the recipe?
They're not on the road anymore. I can ask. Well, what the hell?
I'll tell you anything. He used to use corn syrup, and he absolutely hated it because it was sticky and it didn't even look right. And he was a miserable prick every night, every time he had to do it. And so I made it my mission to find a blood that he liked. And I for weeks, I would sit there and go to hobby stores and grocery stores and you name it, and find different recipes, and nothing worked. And he kept going, give it up, just give it up. I go, no, I refuse. I will find something you like, my Dark Lord. And then I sat there one night in my bunk. I just thinking, it can't be that hard. They got grease paint on their faces. What sticks to grease paint? I thought, flour. And I remembered a recipe for a soup base from Boy's Chef in high school, where you made it with milk and a little bit of flour and some butter. So I made up the white sauce and made it, then dyed it red, and a little salt and pepper, and he loved it. But then I wound up having to cook his blood every night.
Oh my God.
And he sat there. Everything stopped. I didn't have to work. All I did was like make sure that he had his blood and it was right.
Oh my! So you had to warm it up then, and it's like, ooh. I mean, so did he actually want it to taste good as well?
Well, that's a bonus. It's always,
I was just gonna say, like, is he asking for like good tasting blood? Like, that would be hilarious.
When we played, he insisted on tasting it every night before the show, so I had to go to the dressing room. And when we played the Forum, Billy Crystal was a brand new TV star. He's on Soap, and he'd been given one of those evening magazine jobs to go interview the rock stars. Yeah. So he's standing there waiting to see Mr. Mean Jeans, and I walked right in front of him. He goes, "Hey, I'm in line here." I said, "Yeah, calm down." I said, "There you go. Unless you want to taste it." And I stuck it right under his nose, and he goes, "Ew!" Just then, Gene came out. He just started laughing, and that became our code word for the blood was ew!
So let's go mix up the. That's fantastic. Oh my God. All right. So we have another question from the chat here. So our good friend Doug McCauley wants to know, is there a particular song you never want to hear again from the bands you toured with? And is it just from repetition or because it sucks or?
My prerogative.
I cannot blame you on that one. I'm not a big fan. But that's what Bobby Brown, is that it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Wow. Was that Bobby
We had to
Brown's
hear
solo
the
tour
Final
then? Or?
Countdown 3 times a night because they didn't have enough songs to make an hour. So they played it when they came on stage, and then they played it in the middle, and then they played it for an encore.
3 times. Damn.
Nice.
They should have mixed in some covers or something at that point. So our buddy Cale McLeish on the opposite end, he says, adding in from that question, is there any song that you would love to do a pyro display for that you never got to?
Yeah, Undercover by the Rolling Stones. I wanted to make a Thompson machine gun that would like bust a bunch of bottles like on a, make believe bar shelf. When the band, if you know the song, it has this that goes in it, and we're just going to have Jagger just. I thought that would have been cool.
That is awesome. All right, so we got Kiss, and you said you worked for Pink Floyd as well, obviously. Was that with Gilmore or not? I'm not a Pink Floyd fan, so I'm not familiar with the history. So was that still with Gilmore in the band, or?
Yeah, it was Gilmore. I invented the exploding screen. They had that really big video screen in the center of the stage, and I said, well, that's been the center of attention all night. Let's blow it up at the end. They go, you can't do that. It's very expensive. I go, I'm not going to really blow it up. I'm going to make it look like it blows up.
Oh, nice.
That's fantastic, man.
Whoops.
Well, we lost our host, John Drake. I don't know where he went to.
There we go.
What?
I clicked my mouse by accident.
Right.
Out there.
All right, like the Brady Bunch going around in the schools.
Right. Here's the story of a man named Pyro. All right, so you got to tell us from your earlier answer, you are not a big fan of Bon Jovi. Are you? Can you talk a little bit about that? Were they just assholes to work for, or?
They were just young kids, and I just come off a year of Van Halen, and my wife had our first kid, and I had a day and a half off before I went from 5150 straight to Slippery When Wet. So I was just exhausted. I mean, so that had a lot to do with it. But I mean, he was all right. He was just kind of this goofy guy, pop star. What do you know?
So how many Van Halen tours did you end up doing? I know we talked about 5150 and.
Let's see. At first, I started working with them security in '79 when I was with Bill Graham. I did some consulting on 1984, and I held the California licenses for their pyro when they came through. And I did 5150, OU812, For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge, Japan, Europe, and Monsters of Rock.
That's awesome, man. Oh, I could just talk about the Van Halen shit all night long. Like, that's speaking of Van Halen. I mean, the reason that we did get you on, I saw your Facebook post about, Alex talking about Greg Emerson, and Greg, was with them from back when they were in high school, if I'm not mistaken. He was, friends with them in high school. He started, drum teching for Alex. And then Alex booted him after the 5150 tour, right?
No, mid 5150.
Okay. Now, in his book, he says it was because he got sober and couldn't be around people that, that were drinking and stuff. Is that the case, or is that just Alex covering his
Well,
ass?
Alex is a little wet-brained. I mean, he's got the year wrong. He's got every fact wrong, but he sounds better the way he tells it. I mean, Alex at that time on 5150 was hanging out with Hank Williams Jr., and he was fucked up most of the time.
Right.
And he's not a nice man when he's intoxicated, which was a lot. See, I'm not that post that you read.
Yeah.
I have my little Facebook page, my friends read it and stuff like that. I didn't ask anybody to repost it and stuff. That got ridiculous after a while. Everyone, I'm on this guy's side. I go, there are no sides. I'm not asking anybody to join me. I don't want anybody to hate Alex or dislike Alex. I've got something personal against him because of what he did to my friend. And I don't care if I wrote about the Van Halen tours, and I didn't even talk about this because it was such a bad thing because of the way it turned out.
I don't know. It's interesting to me because when I saw your post, I mean, like, I'm a huge Van Halen honk, and I've read so many things that, that Alex was the dick of the band. So when I read the book and he's saying, oh, miss this guy, see you on the other side being so cool, I was like, I wonder how much of this book is like accurate. And then your post kind of like clued me in, like, yeah, he might be talking a little bit of bullshit in this book. I mean, not exactly 100% truthful in there.
Well, most of the book is just exaggeration, but it's funny. I mean, I like it when he says he was going 80 miles an hour or something like that behind a little fishing boat and slammed into the water like concrete and broke every bone on my body. I go, no, you didn't.
Right. So, I mean, now, if you were working with them then, so, I mean, I'm just asking, how fucked up was he? Because, I mean, Sammy Hagar in his book says that at the end of that 5150 tour that Alex was like, they had a trash can off to the back of the stage. He would piss in mid-show. They said he was like, he had one of those hats that holds a beer on either side so we could just constantly have beer. Like, is that accurate, or is that Sammy kind of telling tales as well?
That's accurate. He had his little piss jar. Greg had to change it, and he didn't not play the drums. He hit drum with stick. He did his job.
How much beer was he going through at that point?
Greg had to have, I think it was 24 12-ounce of the Schlitz Bull.
Yeah.
Whew. Schlitz. Nice.
And was this, and he was already drunk when he showed up. So this is like just during the time he was at the arena?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
You could tell probably within the first 30 seconds of seeing him how he was on any particular day.
How did the crew get him through these shows being that absolutely like just off his rocker?
We didn't hang out with him. We just did our jobs. And
oh my God.
Him and I got off to a bad start because Michael Anthony was being so nice to me. Now I'd been touring for years, and I'd never worked for a band that actually owned one of their albums until Van Halen. And I was really happy to be there. And Michael Anthony, I mean, I remember like the first night I'm sitting there and I'm in Hollywood. I get dropped off at the rehearsal studio, this little small room, and I'm sitting there with Van Halen, and they're sitting there playing the new album, and it's just me and three techs. I couldn't believe it. And Michael Anthony was really, really nice. And so I designed an effect for him for his bass solo, where he'd take the Jack Daniels cap and he'd chug it down, and then he'd kick his chair, and I was going to make the chair explode. So we're in Shreveport doing rehearsals, and me and Kevin Dugan, Mikey's longtime tech, we're sitting there working on the chair, And Alex comes walking by and he just goes, "What are you doing?" And I go, "We're working on an effect for Mike." He goes, "Mike doesn't get any effects." I went, "What?" He goes, "Nothing for him. Didn't understand nothing." And walked away, and that was it. Just canceled it. Whereas he had, I think, 60 something explosions on his drum riser for the end of his solo.
Yeah. Was that the tour? I'm trying to. No, it was the fuck tour where it went up, like the riser rose up and did all that kind of stuff. Okay.
Well, it's the one that had all the cannons that were going off in time to the drum beats at the end.
Yeah.
And then the big explosion. Before that, he had the gas line and he hit his mallet against the gong on fire.
Yeah.
And I was laying in bed one day and the phone rings like early in the morning on a Sunday, and I pick it up and he goes, "This is Alex Van Halen." I went, "Well, okay." He goes, "I hear you're a good pyro guy." I go, "Okay." He goes, "So I want you to design something for me." I went, "Okay." I go, last time I looked, you were dipping your mallet in lighter fluid and hitting the gong with it." He goes, "Yeah, it splattered back and burned me." I went, "No shit." He hung up.
So how does that thing, the whole thing work? Like, so it's just a gas line around the outside of the gong, or like, how do you time something like that to make it look like he's actually lighting it on fire or whatever?
He was lighting it on fire, and
really, okay.
He'd light the mallet on fire and hit the gong, and the gas line went around the outside.
Oh, okay. I thought the mallet was not actually on fire. It was just kind of like a timed effect thing.
So on when I was doing it, since the beats had to go exactly in time with his hits, I was set up in the pit in front of the stage so I could stare right at him and just hit him off in time with him.
Oh man, that had to be a bitch, like doing that completely manually.
But that's real music. That none of this like Disneyland click track same exact thing every night in perfect time. I mean, I love real raw rock and roll.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's imperfect, but it was real.
Yeah, it really sucks that you can't see those types of shows anymore. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like you said, you work for Kiss and Bon Jovi and Van Halen and all this stuff. Everything's blowing up and everything, and you just don't get that anymore. I mean, I don't know. Like, I mean, I know it's a pain. Like this is something I wonder too. Like, it had to be somewhat of a pain in the ass because Doug McCauley says, how did you guys have to deal with regulations and ordinances and, you know, what were all the legalities that went into that for you guys? Did the band handle that? Was that part of your responsibility?
No, that was my responsibility. I usually meet with the fire marshals around 3:30 in the afternoon and give them a demonstration if they wanted. But when I first started, Hank Schmel, who was my teacher, he used to call up the fire departments and invite them to come down, and he would give classes and educate them so they knew what to look for and stuff. Mm-hmm. So when they actually started coming out and doing inspections, I knew most of them, and I didn't have a very hard time at all. I used to teach at a couple of different fire departments in California and Colorado, and I'd fly out to New England and teach at Six Flags.
Oh, wow.
Which ironically, the Six Flags where I did a week-long seminar on pyro safety was about 30 miles from the Station Nightclub.
Oh,
they should have come to my seminar.
So you mentioned something earlier about, so you have to actually have a license in every single state to do it or whatever. Do you have to actually have a license? Do you have to be licensed in each different state to do the pyro stuff, or how does that work?
Yeah, I had about, I think, 30 licenses. I had federal, which you need.
Okay.
And then I had like California and Massachusetts. I had one for downtown New York City, so I could do Madison Square Garden.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, if you get California and New York, you pretty well get grandfathered in anywhere in the country because those are the hardest, the most, the ones to get the hardest tests and the most training time. A lot of the licenses are just a joke, you know.
Well, how so?
Well, when I got my New York license, I was with Michael Jackson, and the mayor called up and because to give me the license, and so we were at the Meadowlands, and so I took a taxi all the way across to Brooklyn to the blasting place for New York City, and I go in there, and just a typical New York story. The guy sitting there going, "So you're a big friend of the mayor's, huh? Johnny. You know, if Jesus Christ came in here and I didn't want him to have a license, he wouldn't have a license. So, you know, you and your big friend, the mayor, you know." I go, "Oh, okay." He goes, "Now let's get down to business. My wife packed me some nice fruit. Would you like a piece of fruit?" And I went, "No, thank you." And he goes, "Johnny, my wife packed a nice piece of fruit. Do you want a piece of fruit?" I went, "Oh, yes, that would be delightful." So we sat around and we ate fruit and talked for about 4 hours. And he goes, "Okay, well, you're going to come back tomorrow. We're going to give you a little test and we'll get you a license." I go, "Okay, do you happen to have any of the New York code book or something like that for the New York laws in case they're different than the ones I'm used to? I can study up." And he goes, Johnny, you don't understand. Remember I told you if Jesus Christ came in here and I didn't want him to have a license, he wouldn't get a license?" I went, "Yeah." And he goes, "You're going to get a license." So when I took the test, he'd ask me the questions like, "When transporting explosives, you should never mix, you should never carry this component and this component in the same container." Now, Johnny, I want to make sure you understand the question, because what it's asking you is if you were to put these two things in the same container, they could cause a hazard. So why should you not put these two things in the container? Write your answer down. They might cause a hazard. He never even read my answers. He goes, "Okay, here's your license."
God damn. That seems very safe. Oh my gosh.
That was with Mayor Koch.
So to that end, I mean, like, we actually have a couple questions to kind of tie into that. Aaron Taft wants to know which state or city was most difficult to work with.
The most difficult one was Atlanta because they had a guy that was on the take, and you had to grease him a little bit to get your license, and he was usually drunk, and I refused to do it. And so my stage manager would, but him and I did not get along at all. So if you're fair with everybody, I have no problem with you. But if you're I can't think of the polite word to say, but Atlanta was the hardest.
You can curse all you want on our show.
Okay, if you're a cocksucker.
There we go. Yeah, we don't have those.
The joke was on him because my middle name is Sherman, and I'm named after my great uncle Tecumseh Sherman, who burned his fucking city to the ground. So,
God damn, man.
Pyro ran in my blood.
In the DNA, right? So Doug McCauley wants to know, did you ever have a major dud happen right at a crucial moment in a show? Like you had a big effect that was supposed to happen and it just kind of fizzled.
Yeah, Van Halen's great big exploding sign. Did you see the 50? Did you see Right Here, Right Now?
Yeah.
Monsters of Rock.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Remember that 24-foot by 12-foot sign that came down at the end? And
yeah,
I built that. But nice. we're in the Los Angeles Forum, the biggest show of the tour. And when the sign came down, it snapped the control line, and I pushed the button, and nothing happened. I just sat there and looked stupid.
That is crazy. So let's see. So do you know anybody named Big Al Smasher? He says, "What's up, John?" So somebody's saying hello to you. So there we go.
Any girls?
Nice. So I did want to ask. I mean, you mentioned the Station Nightclub fire, and I know that was something that you and I kind of briefly talked about over Messenger, and that's something that's very personal to you. So, I mean, it's very simple to say that guy should not have shot off the pyro in that building. So,
Really? What was your first clue?
yeah, right. So, I mean, but like, give us the professional explanation. Like, what should have been done? Like, what shouldn't have been done? Like, what
should
went
have been
wrong?
done is he should have, when he walked into the place in the beginning, he should have looked around and seen the foam on the walls, and should have made them give documentations that had all been fire treated. And if they didn't have it, to do a match test where you put a match to it and see if it burns or not. And he would have known not to do it. This guy didn't do that, and he didn't have any fire extinguishers, and the club didn't have any that were, so there was nothing to stop the fire once it started. There is so much that went wrong that night. It tells a book called Killer's Show, which is an excellent book written by my friend John Berrylick. There's four major reasons that fire happened. Four people that are responsible. The two brothers that owned the club that took a shortcut and put the polyurethane on the walls to make it soundproof. That's almost like liquid gasoline, and overcrowded the place, and allowed pyro. No matter what they say, they allowed pyro in that place. As a matter of fact, the guy that shot the pyro that night with Great White did the exact same pyro with Blackie Lawless's Wasp in that club with those brothers. So that thing about we didn't know anything about it is just bullshit, because the lighting director knew their lighting director knew the cue. They talked to everybody. They were just trying to cover their ass. The Jack White was responsible because he was in charge of the tour. He said what was going to happen. He's the one that wanted the effects but wasn't willing to pay for to do them properly. When I did their video, Call It Rock and Roll, I got to know him because he was the opening act on Kiss Revenge. And so I did their video. And the last thing he said to me is, "Boy, I wish we could afford to take you with us all the time." I do too. The guy, the tour manager that actually shot it off, he was wrong. He didn't have a license. He was trying to. Everybody thinks they can do pyro. It's not that easy. And he just fucked up his whole life. He's really remorseful. He's the one that took it the hardest and tried to do the right thing and wrote to every family and pled guilty right away. And I feel really bad for the guy, but he killed 100 people. And the other one is, to me, the major person responsible was the fire inspector, who the brothers he always imply was on the take, but he should have inspected the place. He was the one that had the training. He had the experience. He should have made that place safe for the public. That's his fucking job. And for him to be negligent in his duties, you can't outlaw stupidity. So, you can't put Jack in jail.
Yeah.
And people are going to do dumb things. It's the adults that are getting paid the big bucks that are that take a vow to take care of public safety that are ultimately responsible more than anybody else.
How did that guy get away with setting something off for Blackie Lawless without burning the place down before? If he had already, I mean, if he was familiar with that room, how did he fuck up so bad?
Because the effect he was using was a thing called a gerb, which is a fancy word for a sparkler that has a controlled burn time and height. And the way they market this product is they always say it's a cold fire spark, which is a lie, but you can put your hand in it. And as long as you're not down by the port of fire where it's igniting, you can just put your hand in it all day long, and it's not going to really hurt you. But to say it's a cold fire effect, that means it's not burning any fuel. Once it leaves, there's no more thermal introduced. What that spark is all it is, and it just goes out.
Mhm.
But that spark's as hot as a spark off a grinding wheel, or like a flint and steel, like Boy Scouts used to make fires. That will start something on fire. And when they sit there and they go, well, it's a cold fire effect, then the people that use it go around and they just vomit up what they've been told and repeat it ad nauseum. Oh, it's a cold fire effect. So they don't think that it's going to start a fire. They don't think it's capable of it. Right now, Walmart is selling a machine that emits sparks exactly like the sparks that was at the station. The only difference is it uses a hot plate to heat up the spark. It doesn't use a pyrotechnic material to burn it and launch it, but it's the same temperature. It's the same thing. And there's going to be, and they sell these to like wedding parties and school dances and stuff. And it's just another tragedy waiting to happen.
So is it just a case of they had these things too close to the foam, or?
Yeah, they were too big for the club. They should have been a shorter duration and a smaller height. It was bouncing off the ceilings and I think it was a 15-foot gerb, and so it was going right into this foam that was covered all around.
Yeah.
And the foam had the polyurethane, but underneath the polyurethane were bricks of this other foam that when it was hard to light, but with the polyurethane went, this other foam went, and that's where they got all the cyanide gas that killed most of the people.
Oh God. Yeah. I mean, it's always shocking. It was actually like, I think a couple months ago, but somebody was videotaping that night, and it's about an hour and 15, hour and a half, whatever long video, but they were in there when it started. And I mean, the speed at which that fire just grew was unbelievable.
Yeah, you had 60 seconds to get out, and
Yeah.
only one door to do it that was cattled in, so people couldn't sneak in and not buy a ticket. So the pileup of the door crushed and killed a lot of people too, but you couldn't get out.
The whole thing is just such an ungodly tragedy. I mean, I remember reading about it when it happened, and I'm like, how in the hell is like over 100 people? Like, what in God's name happened? And then you see pictures and the video, and you're just, I mean, it's unfathomable. Like that a mistake of that magnitude could be made. That's just it will forever baffle me. I mean, that's just unbelievable. That I don't know.
And it's happened to other places too. It happened at a club in Russia, killed about 100 people. It's happened a bunch of places. It's going to happen again with these spark machines from Walmart. Oh, the other thing, if he, when you do something like that, you do the match test, and so you even know it's safe. But say you don't even do that, you at least have spotters working with you that are in charge of watching the effect go off to see that nothing bad happens, and they have a working fire extinguisher that they know how to use. If they had that, the tragedy wouldn't happen. But they had people just running around going, "Where's the fire extinguisher?"
Isn't well, never mind. I was going to ask a stupid question. I was going to say, isn't that illegal? Like, no, I'm sure it's legal to not have fire extinguishers, dickhead. Yeah, wow. I mean, did you know anybody that was on that crew that night, or?
Well, I knew the band because,
yeah.
And now I'm friends with about a dozen of the survivors that I stay in contact with it's just heartbreaking. These are just your real rock fans. They're the most normal. There's nothing exceptional about them, except they loved music and they went into this place to enjoy a little rock music and have this happen to them.
That's crazy.
It's like my daughter. She went to the festival here in Las Vegas and wound up getting shot in the back. It's
Oh, jeez.
Well, she was in that where the guy was up in the hotel.
yeah.
Wow.
She was right down front, and lucky she grew up around me, so she knew it wasn't fireworks. Everybody's going, "Oh, is it fireworks?" She goes, "No." She got down, but the girl right next to her got hit in the head, and
Oh my God.
she got hit not with a bullet, but by concrete and shrapnel bouncing off the ground. So she had these horrible black bruises on her back.
Oh man.
Oh God, that is scary as shit, man. Whew. Well, trying to lighten the mood here a little bit. Sorry, dude. So is there an effect for you that you would say was like the most difficult one to pull off, either with a particular band or just in general?
The hardest one that we did was the Van Halen sign, because it had to have 600 sparklers that had to each be individually rolled in a pyrotechnic and dried and then coated in a gunpowder. So when you lit one, that's what made that big fireball. They all lit each other.
Yeah.
But you had to make on Monsters, we had 2 of those signs, so we had to make 1,200 of those sparklers a day. So we'd have one of the semis and nothing but a crew of like 4 guys all day long, just rolling sparklers.
Jesus Christ.
But that was a very custom. You've never seen that effect anywhere else. And so it had to be custom made every day. That's what made it affordable too.
So you've done Ace Frehley's smoking guitar. You've done Van Halen's exploding sign, Al's gong. Like, man, oh man.
So I guess this wouldn't really involve. I would hope it wouldn't be pyrotechnics, but there's so many stories about how, bands bring other bands on tour, and then like the last night of the show, there's like practical jokes pulled and stuff. What are some of the best ones you've seen of some of those?
Of the what?
Like when the band's on stage, like there's a lot of stories about like bands will pull practical jokes on other bands, on younger bands when they're up on stage. Like what's some of the best stuff you saw like that?
Well, the best one ever was when Van Halen had
Alice in Chains.
Alice in Chains. And on their last night, first we just double taped the stage all the way across the stage and double-sided gaffer tape. So as they came running on, it was like flies sticking there was just tape everywhere.
Nice.
And they had to sit up on their amps and their crews trying to pull it off of them. But that was just to say, hello, boys. Then when they got to the last song, we rented live sheep that we dressed up in pantyhose and garters and sent them out onto the stage. Nah.
That's a normal Saturday night at John's house, actually.
Oh, shut up, Brian.
Lane said, Stan goes, he's sitting there, he's like looking around, goes, I'd like to thank the Van Halen crew for bringing us these lovely sheep to fuck after the show.
What was Van Halen's Alice in Chains' retaliation? Didn't they come out like naked with nothing but a sock on their dicks or something?
No, that was Fester Pussycat on the Revenge tour.
Okay.
And that was great because Kiss doesn't like practical jokes and they won't do practical jokes. And I didn't like the tour manager. I don't like any management. They're useless. Unless you're like making something louder or blow up, or light up, and you can just stay home. But
I love it.
So he comes up to me and he goes, it's Alice in Chains. It's Faster Pussycats last night, and we're going to pull a prank and blah, blah, blah. And I go, okay, you get Gene or Paul to say it's okay, and I'll do it. Otherwise, I'm not going to do it, because I've seen how mad Gene and Paul get if you mess with their show. And the reason they don't like pranks is because if you pull a prank on the opening act, they're going to pull one on you, and they just don't put up with it. So the band comes in, and Tim runs up and he goes to the dressing room to ask him for permission, and he just comes out with his tail between his legs, moping and runs into his office and slammed the door shut. So I said to my assistant, I go, hey, he didn't call off the prank. He's just, throwing a hissy fit, but he didn't call off the prank. So we got lawn chairs and big Mai Tai glasses and sat on the side of the stage and watched Faster Pussycat when they came running out naked and the production manager, he's trying to stop him. He's grabbing a naked guy around the waist and finally just deflated. He just let him go. And so it was during the stripper song, Take It Off. So there was girls on stage stripping anyway, but not these ugly guys. And Andre, Gene's bodyguard, who's huge, walked right across the stage and grabbed him by the top of the head and picked him up off the ground by his skull and walked him over to Gene, who just yelled at him in front of, how many people were in the audience.
Yeah.
And then after the show, they yelled at him some more. And so we set up our chairs in the, in the hallway because we wanted to watch too. So we're sitting there with our Mai Tais and our lounge chairs watching him. And Gene's just about to lay into him when Paul Stanley steps up and just starts yelling, yeah, you're unprofessional, blah, 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 blah. And Gene stood there with a look of such pride, like, my little man is a man. I mean, he was so proud. Look at him go. Yes, Paul, chew him out.
Oh my God, that's awesome, man. So one thing I wanted to know, because with the it's because of the 5150 stage, it was kind of a unique setup where they had it was all grading and stuff. They had that kind of like not a ramp, but it kind of like at an angle went up to the back level and stuff, so Sammy could get up and look at the people behind and all that. What sort of challenges does a stage like that present when you're given a plot like that that's really not a standard like flat layout with a drum riser type thing?
Well, don't forget the lights came down too and made ramps, and Sam could run up and run across the top of the lighting rig too. So
yeah.
On the original blueprints, there was 2 more tracks that went out over the audience, kind of like with lights all down them and stuff. And at the end of the show, they'd slowly roll out, and so Sam could run over the audience. But that, thank goodness, that was that was a bridge too far, a little too expensive and too much time to be practical. But it was huge and it was cool. But
what are some other things that you had to like ideas that bands gave you that you had to be like, yeah, that's not happening? Like, was there anything pretty major you had to shoot down?
Well, like one time Rick James saw the movie The Last Dragon, and he comes up and he goes, I want fireballs, these orbs. I want to throw them and then have them explode. I go, Rick, you saw a movie. This is live, okay? Movie live.
Just throw a bomb.
So of all the bands that you've toured with, who is the most fun band or musician to party with?
Van Halen.
I love that answer. That's what I was hoping for. So why were they cooler than like say Ace Frehley or some of the hair metal guys or something?
You do some tours and you sit there and it gets to be, you get homesick, you get exhausted, things are fucked up all the time, and you sit there and you take your little shower in the smelly hockey dressing room and then drag your ass out to the bus and get whatever sleep you can to the next thing. On 5150, the morale of that crew, the band was so excited and was so happy to be there. And the management was so proficient, and they really, really, really took care of us. That thing was a smooth running machine. No problems. We used to go into the halls in the morning singing like the guys from Bridge on River Kwai. Just, and it was a very dedicated crew. Like Edward didn't like bodyguards, but boy, did we took care of him. Everybody on that crew kept their eye on him and made sure that nobody. And we had ex-Rangers and stuff on the crew that could kill, but there was no professional security, and we weren't paid. But it was just this massive loyalty to him, because he'd like to go out and just talk to fans, like at the back gate sometimes and stuff, and always the crew keeping him, watching him.
So yeah. Why didn't he like having security? I mean, I met him, but it was in 2004, and I mean, granted, on that tour, like it's pretty famous. He was all kinds of, coked out and chugging wine by the bottle, but when I met him, he was just the nicest guy. And all the stories that you hear about him are that, up until about the Balance tour, he was like the nicest guy you could possibly hope to meet. So why was he so anti-bodyguard security guy with him?
I don't know, maybe had something left over from the Dave days. Maybe that left a bad taste in his mouth about it. I don't know.
So
he was just a nice guy. He was low maintenance. Just smiling.
So, yeah. Everybody said he was like the most mellow, like down to earth guy you would ever hope to meet, especially for a rock star his size. So I'm surprised he'd put himself at risk like that, because you feel like fans would just mob him, if they saw him.
He never had any problem. I think it's also how you carry yourself. If you make a big spectacle of yourself and have the bodyguards and stuff, you kind of invite trouble. Steve Perry for Journey had a bodyguard that was like a guy, like a James Bond. He was an English guy from their Secret Service, with very low key, soft spoken, always wore a suit. We're walking down the hallway in the hotel, and all of a sudden there's this person standing against the wall, and the guy just grabbed him and threw him on the ground and took a pistol off him. Now, how he knew that guy had a gun and how fast that guy moved, I'll never know, but it was something to see.
So which Journey tour did you do?
Frontiers.
Oh, wow.
Holy shit. Wow. That's kind of a big tour. Wow, man. So trying to think what else we can ask you here, man. This is pretty fascinating stuff. Brian, you got anything?
Have you thought about writing a book on your whole journey?
It's in my office. It's sitting in there.
How far into it are you?
Like 1,100 pages.
1,100? Good Lord.
Wow.
You might have to edit that down just a tad. I'll read all 1,100 myself. John and I will, but I don't know about the general public, though.
I was going to divide it up into the 70s, the early 80s, the late 80s, and the 90s.
What? You got to get with your buddy Steve Rosen, man. Have him help you get that thing to finishing.
We have the greatest conversations because he knew Edward intimately as a friend.
Yeah.
And I knew Edward from seeing him every day on the road. And so there were different perspectives of the same guys. And we'll sit there, and Van Halen fans would die if they heard some of the conversations him and I have late at night about the intricacies of being Edward.
That would for me to be a fly on the wall for that would be like I said, I am a huge Van Halen guy. So that's right up my alley for sure.
And I never got over it. I one time they were changing the last song where we blew the big Van Halen sign.
Mm-hmm.
So Edward called me back in the dressing room, and he's like going, okay, so this is how it's going to go. And he's got his guitar, but it wasn't plugged in, but he's playing the end of Standing on Top of the World.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I'm just sitting there going, there's like 60,000 kids out there dying to see this guy that paid big money. And I'm sitting here in the dressing room, just sitting here listening to him play just for me. He got finished. He goes, so you got it? I said, no, you better play it again.
That's fantastic.
Oh, man.
So, I mean, man, I don't know. You know what? You know, one thing I do wonder, I forgot I did have one. So there was that famous James Hetfield burn accident. I believe it was in Montreal on the Black Album tour where he walked out over like a jet. Like, how does something like that happen?
Stupidity. I mean, you got to know your rock stars. You got to know which ones are idiots.
So in a case like that, I mean, is that like a case where James screwed up by walking over something he knew was going off, or was that somebody setting?
Yeah, absolutely. He was in the wrong place. Same with Michael Jackson on when he got burned for Pepsi. He was in a place he wasn't supposed to be. And on Michael Jackson's accident, the director they had pushed the pyro guy like back in this corner, so he couldn't even see what's going on. So he just hit the cue in time to the music, and you can't do that. If you want to be a professional pyro guy, you don't expect to make many friends, because you're not there to make friends. You're there not to hurt somebody, and you got to be a dick most of the time. Edward and I had this thing going where he used to come in the dressing room on 5150 when a particular woman was looking for him, and you could hear her out in the hallway, Edward, where are you? And going, shh. And so he's sitting in the pyro room because nobody could go in there. And but every time he'd be lighting up cigarettes. I go, Edward, you can't fucking smoke in here. You're gonna kill yourself. Oh yeah, sorry. Every day.
Did he give a shit? But go ahead, Brian. Sorry.
Oh, I was going to ask. So, how does that work during like sound check? Because it's not like you can't like test. You can't like test every single one of your pyros before you go on, because otherwise you'll go through all your stuff, right? I mean, how does that work as far as like testing things ahead of time before? Like, are there certain like highlights? Okay, we just need to make sure we know that we're hitting this at this point, or is there like a, I don't want to say like a blank that fires off like a gun. You know what I'm trying to say here?
No, you only test fire what the fire marshal says he wants to see, because it does cost money.
Okay.
And you're absolutely right. The thing about pyros, once you test something, that one's shot.
Right.
That doesn't mean the next one's going to go. It means that one went, and it ain't coming back.
So you do all that pre-testing before the tour starts?
Oh, there's so much work that goes into before the show. Like on Monsters of Rock, we were trying to get some effects that people hadn't seen before. And what we did was, rather than have the big fireworks display at the end like we did on the Jacksons, we brought it all in tight and actually had it going off on the stage and above the stage with the Van Halen logos, which made it brand, people would think Van Halen, compared to like a fireworks display that it didn't matter who it was. So I would make videotapes of us out in Central California where the Star Wars guys make their stuff, and they'd be showing us different stuff, and we'd be videotaping it, and we'd have to send it in to the office so they could see what we were doing up in Northern California. And I didn't like just sending boring videos, so I'd always spice mine up. Like on Monsters for OU812, I'd be doing the fireworks display, and all of a sudden there'd be a shot, and I'd have like a naked girl in a salad bowl, and I'd have a napkin and a knife and a fork, and just say OU812, and it just flash on the screen for a minute and go off, just to make the boys laugh. I'd make videos on tour, like when we were in Milwaukee, when Dahmer had gotten caught. We went down to Dahmer's apartment. It was like a weird carnival going on. Just all these people out there. So we went and got some Kentucky Fried Chicken and covered it with red food coloring and made a documentary called My Dinner with Dahmer.
Oh my God.
You want a piece of chicken? Yeah, that guy crazy. He eats people. And I'd give it to the band, and they'd watch it in their dressing room, and John's crazy.
So did you ever do like any like big like music videos or any like any stuff on movies or TV shows or anything like that, or was it strictly all concert kind of things?
Well, you can see the Van Halen signs in Live Right Here, Right Now, which is a great video.
Okay.
My stuff's in Live Without a Net.
Okay.
And it's on. When MTV was playing music, you couldn't go an hour without seeing something of mine sooner or later. But,
did you ever have a desire to maybe do like film and TV, or you just love doing the road stuff and the music?
Well, that's kind of what Hank introduced to rock and roll. He was a movie special effects man and a stunt pilot and a war hero and an Academy Award winner and a few other little things. Plus, he had 11 kids. So
that's the biggest thing, Jesus.
But what's his name? Kiss's first manager.
Bill O'Coin.
Bill O'Coin wanted to move the band up into professionals, so he brought in a special effects man from Hollywood to design effects for the rock tour, which is why Kiss was the first one to really do intricate, and other than just the white flash pot,
The super simple stuff. Yeah.
That's
But
great.
I'd sit there and Hank would just go, "Yeah, I'm telling you, you rock guys. You ain't a pitbull on a real powder man's ass."
If I had $1 every time I heard that.
Nice.
Hank did the Pyro on Tora, Tora, Tora. And he always did the Rose Bowl. He ran the Rose Bowl every year. So he did other few little shows.
Oh my God. He did Tora, 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 the Pearl Harbor movie. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is
God
absolutely
damn.
amazing.
So one thing I was kind of wondering about when you're talking about the Monsters of Rock tour and stuff, is there a difference between having to do an outdoor show as opposed to an indoor show? I mean, because like obviously you've got wind factored in and everything. So what are the differences between the two?
Bigger boom. Yeah, larger effects, louder. And you're right, the wind does make a difference, and rain, all sorts of stuff. I got some videotape I got to send you guys of like the last night of 5150. We shut off over 100 cannons in the back of the Cow Palace during the end of the last song.
Holy smoke. Yes, we would love to see that.
Hell yeah, we would. How the hell do you get 100 cannons?
Like, well, the Cow Palace is my home in San Francisco. That's where I live. So my shop was right there. So we just brought everything from every tour I ever done and blocked off the whole back third of the Cow Palace and made a huge last night.
That's
how do you do?
Badass. That's so fucking badass. So what was the last tour that you did?
Live right here, right now.
Okay. God, that was such a good show.
So you're fully retired now from all this stuff, or do you still do consulting and teaching or anything like that on the side, or? I'm just an old man living in my hermitage.
So, like, do you ever get asked to consult or teach?
Yeah, sometimes. I'll help anybody. Ask.
How is it different, like today, as opposed to? I mean, it was much more like guerrilla style back then because it wasn't as nailed down, I would assume. But like, what are some major differences between people trying to do that stuff today as opposed to back when you were doing it?
I don't know. I haven't seen anything that impressive since I left or that new. The only thing that's different is now they allow these propane jets that make the fireballs. And I cursed the person who did that because now it's a very affordable effect and everybody uses it. It's all the same. There's nothing unique about it. And they always, because they've got the propane, they always sit there and run the fucking cannons until they're empty. For an effect to be effective, it's got to be subtle. It's got to fit, and it's got to be just the right amount and not too much. You want them to look like a rock god, but you don't want to make them look like they're actors. And
right.
So like less is more in terms of the number of effects.
Knowing when enough is enough. I mean, on ACD, we did the cannons for Those About to Rock. We shake those places at the end, but it fit the song, to just throw something in because you want to check that box off on your production thing. Okay, we've got Pyro. Just use Pyro when you need it or when it fits. And I don't know. That always bothers me when you sit there and see Dancing with the Stars, and they just have the stupid little flashes, and not even in time, and don't make any sense. And just like, okay, we had Pyro.
So what advice would you give to someone if they, let's just say, wanted to get rid of like another co-host on a podcast and maybe burn their house down or something? What would be the easy way to do something like that?
Shit, Brian.
I don't think there is an easy way. My friend Pyro Pete, I think, is teaching.
Pyro Pete, I love it. What does Pyro Pete do?
Oh, just a little band like the Rolling Stones. And
Oh, that's it. Okay, he's not anything big in the industry.
I met him in 1979 when we went through New York City with Kiss, and he wanted to be a Pyro guy, so he came and hung out backstage trying to meet Hank and hang out all day long. So I've known him for a while. He's one of the best.
That's
So,
awesome.
Last question from me: what is the biggest show that you've ever blown stuff up at?
It would be Van Halen, Monsters of Rock, at the LA Coliseum. We set 5 platforms up around the back of the stage. So when we did the end of the thing, we had a whole curtain of mines and waterfalls and comets coming right, from around the stage in time to the end of the song, along with the regular pyro going off in the lighting truss and the big signs going off. Those signs, they looked good on paper. And we sat there and we set them up for the very first time in Tampa. And I'm up on a platform behind them on stage right, looking down at the band. And I hit that button for the first time. The entire stadium lit up. I mean, that fireball went off, and I was behind him. I could feel it was like somebody just turned a blow dryer. Those were, I love those signs.
I can't believe it's like a couple guys, like their job was just like rolling 1,200 of these sparklers. That is crazy to me. That
I'll sit there and get messages on my Facebook page like, I was one of your sparkler I'll always remember that fucking day, just rolling.
That is insane. 1,200.
Do you have any cool stuff from those Van Halen tours you got to keep, like with the logo stuff on it, or?
I got Eddie's finger. You want
to? Well, John will hunt you down and try to get that if that's for real.
There we go. I'm coming to visit.
I've got some of the things I have are like my no smoking signs. Edward would go by with his Sharpie like "fuck you" on them, so I kept some of those with his fuck yous on
God, that's amazing! You got to send us a picture of one of those.
That's fantastic.
Amazing.
I got like on the walls here. I've got one of Michael Anthony's stage shirt sign, picture me in the band, and
nice
poster from Texas Jam with everybody Dio and everybody signed it.
Oh man, that was cool. Texas Jam. That's awesome.
That was the show where the manager got beat to shit and put in the hospital afterwards.
Oh, Ed Leffler?
Yeah.
So, what was that about? I'm trying to remember because Sammy talked about that. Like Leffler got into it with somebody, didn't he? And then they jumped him in the elevator or something.
Well, nobody knows for sure who did it, but he did get into it with Kingdom Come earlier in the day when he wouldn't let them use their video equipment that I guess they'd paid for to do this big video shoot, and Leffler went nope. And so when he went and got on the elevator that night, somebody was waiting. A couple of big guys were waiting for him, and they worked him over pretty good.
Ugh.
I loved Ed Leffler. He was the best manager I ever worked with.
And you said you don't like managers. That's high praise.
Well, he's not a road manager. He pretty much stays in the office, but he could be funny. He sat there one time, like he had his price for t-shirts, and this one building decided they were going to charge a higher rate, charge him a higher rate per shirt and stuff like that. And Leffler goes, no, this is what I'm paying. And they go, no, not in this building. He goes, okay, fine. He goes, pack it up, put all the t-shirts back in the truck. And the building manager goes, are you serious? He goes, I'm fucking rich. I don't need your shit. The guy goes, okay, we'll pay you the money.
That's awesome, man.
So
yeah,
I need your shit.
Yeah, Sammy talks about him in his book so much, like and actually, going back to Alex's book, he actually, he shit all over Noel Monk. He said Noel was a terrible manager, but he said that Ed Leffler was a great manager.
Ed Leffler was a great manager because nobody's ever heard of him either, because He wasn't a windy deal. They had to go, look at me, I'm the manager. He sat there and he took care of business. And he took care of his band and took care of his crew. And there was no shenanigans. And it was just, I think he pretty much was a father figure for Al and Edward, and kept him going. And if anybody wants to doubt that, look what happened when Leffler died. It was right after that the band just went to hell.
Yeah, Ray Daniels.
They lost their way, but as long as Leffler was alive, he sat there and, I mean, way more than where you think a manager was. He took care of them. He was a great man.
And he passed. It was cancer, wasn't it, that got him? That was that was during the Fuck tour in '91, wasn't it?
Yeah, right after Live Right Here, Right Now.
Yeah, 93.
which was the second year of the Fuck tour. He collapsed on the loading ramp at my last show.
Really? It was that was then.
Yeah,
no shit.
We played the amphitheater in Southern California.
Oh, God,
I could always make Ed Leffler laugh. That was hard to do, but I would sit there and just do things like one time I got a date with Maria Conchita Alonso. I was drunk, picked her up at some bar in Mexico City, and her name's on the guest list. I'm going to Ed Leffler. I go, oh, don't tell Edward. He goes, okay. And so I'd come back in the office a little bit later, and I go, you didn't tell him, did you? He goes, no. And so finally he goes, what's up, John? I go, well, Ed's wife's just a TV star. My girlfriend's a movie star. And I just don't want her to feel that. And Leffler just started going, you're crazy. But that show that he collapsed at, it was time to make all the punters leave backstage so the band could go on stage. And they're having trouble getting, some of the people who thought they're important out of the backstage. And one of them was Billy Idol. And I just go, oh, Mr. Leffler, can I make him leave? Can I make him leave? He goes, okay, John, go ahead. So I go back there going, hey, Billy, Eddie wants to see you in the dressing room, but you got to hurry because they're about to go on stage. And so I ran to the back gate and stopped, and he went through the gate, and the security just slammed the gate behind him. And Leffler was going, you are out of your fucking mind. So I've heard.
Oh, that's fucking great, man. Well, John, I cannot thank you enough for coming on. I know we had a scheduling issue previously, and then today with you, unfortunately, had to download a new browser and all that crap. But man, this was awesome. Great. Appreciate your time, man.
Wait a minute, you got to hang on for 1 second.
Okay, we can do that.
This is amazing.
I know. Everybody in the chat is like, John's about to lose it. He's talking Star Wars and Van Halen.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I'm trying not to go full Van Halen on this one. I'm trying to spread the wealth because you know me. I'll just continue to ask Van Halen questions.
Yep.
I'm so bad at this, man. When I get guys like this on, I just go fanboy, and I try not to. I'm so unprofessional.
Yeah, thanks for letting me say fuck, and thanks for letting me talk into infinity.
That's fantastic, man. Well, thank you so much, man. It was awesome having you on. So,
I said I had it all set up and left it in the other room.
Oh, well. Any final thoughts before we let you go?
I want to tell you one quick story about Edward that was, to me, was funny. Sure. It was the very first time I met him, and they played the San Jose Civic Arena in 1979. And I sat there and I said, I finally like this is what a rock band should be like. And so I bugged Noel all day long and their road manager. I want a job. And they go, calm down. So I was their runner and took care of everything. So the show ends. And then they come out of the dressing room, and Dave makes this big to-do, like, I want to thank everybody for your spectacular help, and got in the limos, and all the limos went roaring up the ramp. I turn around, and there's Edward standing all by himself with a cigarette. I go, oh, guess they forgot somebody, huh? So I went and got on the phone, and they were staying at the Holiday Inn across the street. and I could hear him walking by on the. I go call for Patrick Whitley, you know. So he gets to the phone. He goes, "What?" I go, "This is John over at the show." He goes, "I told you I'd keep your number. What the hell's wrong with you? You bugging me? I got things to do." I go, "Well, you forgot something." I go, "What?" I go, "Edward's here." About 2 minutes later, the limo comes roaring back down the ramp, and he sat there and he stopped. And before he got in the car, he sat there and shook my hand and thanked me for my help. And he's really nice guy.
I love that, man. Dude, Ed is pretty much my hero. So, you know, your stories about him are excellent. And obviously Steve Rosen's book, and we had him on. So, man,
in all the years I worked for him, in all the shows, we only had one time we had, you know, a fight. And it was a good one, but he was drunk, and he could be in, you know, you had to hide from him during those days.
Was this like later on? Like, was this during like the Fuck Tour? And
that was 51, 50. I don't know. I'd hung out with Sam Kinnison's mother and his opening act the whole night before. So you can imagine we were in a little hungover that day because I loved Kinnison.
Right.
Someday I'll tell you some Kinnison Van Halen stories because Michael Anthony's tech used to tech for Kinnison when he was doing his videos.
Oh, shit. Oh, Kevin Dugan did?
Yeah. Dugan tech for Kinnison.
I did not know that. Wow. Yeah, we're gonna have to get you back on. We'll just do a Van Halen stories episode, man. We'll get you back because I could listen to this all night long, and everybody in the chat is just loving this, man. So thank you so much for coming on. We have had a great time talking to you. So
I can tell you the Hiroshima story.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
They wanted me to do Pyro in Hiroshima like I was going to impress them.
Oh my God.
Oh Lord.
I love it.
He's like, Grandma Van Halen. She goes, I've seen bigger.
Oh my God. That's so wrong.
Oh my God. That's one of the best jokes ever told on our show, man. That's awesome. Whew, so
all right, thank you.
All right, appreciate you, man. We'll talk
Thanks,
to you real
John.
soon. And yeah, I'll shoot you a message. We'll get you on again here soon. Take it
All
easy,
right.
man. See ya.
All right. Bye.
Okay, that was fucking great.
Wow.
Oh my God, that was amazing.
I didn't know really what to expect. I mean, all you kind of told me was, well, you know, he did Pyro for a bunch of bands and stuff, and I was like, okay, cool. I literally had no idea what to expect. Like I was hoping it was going to be like that, and it was like that times 1,000.
Yeah.
So that was great, man. That was some in-depth, hilarious stuff.
Yeah, when the previous booking fell through, he had sent me, oh my God, like 30 pictures of him with these rock stars. And I mean, it was no joke. It was like John Bon Jovi and Gene Simmons and, you know, Van Halen. And I was like, God damn, like, these are all like major people. So I was like, this is going to be great. Like, and again, originally I wanted to have him on to talk about Alex Van Halen's book because, you know, John was friends with Greg Emerson. And, you know, Greg Emerson was Alex's drum tech from the beginning through, like, as John told us, the middle of the 5150 tour. And John's Facebook post was like, I mean, it did get spread around. Like, I found it out of nowhere. I found it pretty, and I don't know how, but knowing me, it's probably just because my algorithm is nothing but Van Halen and dogs. So like, but yeah, when I saw it, I was like, holy shit, man, like this guy is pissed. And so I was like, well, that'd be an interesting story for the show. And, you know, so I just hit him up and I was Facebook Messenger like, hey man, I saw your post. I'm a huge Van Halen guy. I host a music podcast and wondered if you would come on. And he hit me right back. He's like, yeah, I'll come on. So we, you know, got to scheduling and here we are.
Seems like a guy that got like his dream job and then got to basically work with like, you know, his favorite band of all time. And it seems like he appreciated them as musicians and as, you know, people too. So that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Dude, Doug McCauley, man, you are not kidding. 100 with a bang. Yeah. That wasn't too bad for a 100th episode, man.
Yeah. I don't know what we're going to do next in 2 weeks. We're not going to be able to top that.
Well, yeah. Well, we're not going to be here in 2 weeks. Don't forget.
Oh, that's right.
we are going to be in New York City.
So we will top that ourselves, but not on the show.
Yeah, exactly. A very, very quick story for everybody out there. I almost got Brian and I reservations at a pizzeria in New York City that's rated the best pizza in the world. And I have to do it again tomorrow at like 9 a.m. The reservations, literally, they go online 14 days before the day you want to reserve. And I was in there exactly at 9 a.m., had 2 reservations in the cart, and by the time I could barely type anything, they were gone. And it hit 9:01, and every reservation was gone. So, but yeah, that's going to be, we won't be here in 2 weeks because we'll be in New York. But then 2 weeks after that, we're going to do our New York recap, because we are going to the final. We're going to the final show of the 40th anniversary tour. So
only on Talking Infinity. Come for the Van Halen Pyro stories and stay for the stories about reserving a restaurant pizza.
Exactly.
A booth at the pizza place.
Exactly. Look at Kale. Kale says he ended with a friggin' nuke joke. Look, that was excellent, man. That was Aiken level right there. That was awesome. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna get him back on, and it's just gonna be a Van Halen stories episode, because if he wants to talk Van Halen and tell all kinds of behind the scenes shit, hell yes.
Dude, I want to hear more Rick James. There has to be. There can't be anything more insane than following Rick James around during that time. I don't know how much he saw or was witness to, but there's got to be something.
Right? Did he ever actually say, "I'm Rick James, bitch," in your presence? And last thing before we go, if John ever decides to sell off some memorabilia, I am going to beg him to hold back one of those no smoking signs with Eddie Van Halen's writing saying "fuck you" on it.
Yeah.
That will be center, like, place of honor in my man cave. To have that would just be the coolest goddamn thing. So so that was awesome episode, man. That was like I had said, guys, sometimes you got to do it on the fly and figure it out as it goes, and tonight was one of those nights, and it turned out to be absolutely awesome. So total blast, man. So and guys, seriously, I know I speak for Brian on this, and Brian, you can speak for yourself in a second, but it is our 100th episode, and goddamn, you guys are awesome. I never thought we would last that long. Podcasts have a very short shelf life, and this one has not, and it's because you guys keep supporting us and tuning in and all that kind of stuff. So man, for the bottom of my heart, thank you. I love you guys. This is awesome to hang out with you guys and do stuff like this. So Brian, any final thoughts before we sign off?
Yeah, thanks everybody for tuning into the first 100, and I think our goal is to try to get what we said 12 or 1300 total, and then we're gonna probably start slowing down at that point. So,
nice.
Yeah, we definitely would have never made it this far if people weren't tuning in and into it and downloading and watching in live and sending us comments and hanging out with us. And anybody in this area who's on here regularly, we'll see you guys Sunday night. Hang out.
Yeah. Brian and I will be at the Cleveland show. Brian's actually going to the show. I'm not, but we are going to the pre-show hangout. At least I am. It's at a bar called Dilly D's in Northfield. So that's at 4:00 with DTUSA, the official fan club. And Brian and I will definitely be at the pre-show hangout for New York City on March 22nd. That one is at a bar called Elgin. It's at 64 West 48th Street in New York City. So we'll be at both of those. If you guys want to hang out, we'd love to meet you guys in person, kind of bullshit and hang out and have a few beers or something. So, yeah, man, we love you guys. So we will see you again. Our next show, again, is not in 2 weeks. It'll be a month from now. It will be on Thursday, April 3rd, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will be giving our New York City recap, as we will have come from the final show of the Dream Theater 40th anniversary tour. And a little birdie told me that there's a little surprise in store for those of us who are at that show. We're getting something on that night that nobody else on the entire tour is getting. So we'll tell you all about that when we come back here on April 3rd. So until then, guys, thank you once again for getting us through 100 episodes. We really appreciate you guys. We love you guys. And until next time, I'm your host, John. He is Brian. And as always, y'all, Carpe Diem.